Great, thank you so much, Greg. So my name is Megan Johnson, and I'm going to be spending the next 15 minutes talking to you about the secret sauce to a killer customer experience. And first of all, I'd just like to thank Finovate for bringing me along today to be a speaker. I actually attended my first Finovate back in 2014 in New York when I was just starting out within digital financial services. And it feels really special to actually come full circle and be a speaker today in my adoptive city of Berlin. So my name is Megan Johnson. I'm an American living in Berlin by way of Dublin and London. And as I mentioned, I started my career within digital financial services back in 2012, where I worked for a company called Mapper Research in London. And for 4 years, we worked with banks' digital teams all around the world, providing them with insights about their competitors, leading banks, challenger banks, and increasingly fintech digital customer experiences within online banking, mobile banking, tablet banking. So essentially, I spent 4 years, day in, day out, looking at mobile banking apps, online banking platforms, what features and functionalities are there, where the bugs are, and what sets different banks apart. In 2016, I left Mappa and co-founded 11FS, specifically building the Pulse tool. And within Pulse, we captured and curated hundreds of different customer journeys within banks and fintechs. So again, another 2 years looking day in and day out of what these customer experience within digital financial services look like. In 2017, I moved from London to Berlin, and ever since then, I've been a freelancing nomad, and I work with banks of all shapes and sizes in Africa, Europe, Central and North America, with end-to-end user experience advisory, strategic research, increasingly within the data and blockchain spaces. I help them understand trends and best practices within financial services and customer experience, and also provide them with in-depth competitor analysis. So let's move on to the fun stuff. So I'm going to talk to you today about what makes a good customer experience. But first, I just want to kind of set the scene with a few thoughts on customer experience. So what actually is customer experience? Customer experience is about how the customer interacts with the business. So it's about how I, as a user and customer, how I use your product, how it solves my day-to-day problems, and how it makes my life easier. It's pivotal in maintaining loyalty and lifetime customer value. So it either creates a desire to continue to use your product or service time and time again. It can also provide a sense of comfort for users in the sense that they know time and time again your product and service will fulfill their needs and they don't have to worry about any problems using your product or service. A good customer experience is also constantly adapting based on customer needs. So it's not just launching a product or feature and keeping that static for X amount of times. It's something that's working with the customer to make sure that it's solving problems and helping their day-to-day life. Customer experience is not the impact of digitization. So if we think about banking, before digital, we had incredible customer experiences in the form of human-to-human engagement. So think about bank branches. You know, we had our bankers, they knew our name, they knew when we were going on holidays, they knew our family, they knew what products we held, and that was a fantastic customer experience. And with this digital revolution, it has really changed the way we think about things. And in a sense, it's made it easier to provide a good customer experience, but it's become so important and pivotal in an increasingly competitive space, especially within financial services, that it can truly make or break a business. So what is the secret sauce to a customer experience? So for me, a good customer experience is one of four things, or better yet, all four things. So a good customer experience is timely, relevant, personalized, and predictive. So moving on to the first ingredient of timeliness. So for me, timeliness is providing a product or service at the right time and ensuring that it's the right product or service. And this is quite hard to crack in comparison to some of the other ingredients in a good customer service. And in particular within banking, we're seeing this very much in the world of travel and in travel-related experiences. So one example I'd like to show you, which is one of my absolute favorite features within digital financial services, comes from Monzo. So Monzo has a feature called Travel Reports, and how it works is that me living in London, I'm going to go to Berlin for the weekend. So once I land in Berlin, I receive a push notification from Monzo welcoming me to Germany and informing me of the exchange rate. So then I spend the weekend in Berlin, I use my Monzo card 10 or 15 times. When I then land back in London, it's able to tell that I've landed due to the GPS on the phone, and it says, hey, welcome back to London, check out your travel report. And in this travel report, you can see on the right, it informs me of how much I've spent, the number of transactions, the average expenditure, and it allows me to see the different shops and merchants that I've spent at. And it's quite cool because based on the country you travel to, they give you a quirky little summary. So it's a bit small to see, but here with Monzo, when you travel to Germany, it informed me that I spent 162 pounds, and that was spent in Germany, and that's the equivalent of 81 currywursts. So a really playful, helpful experience here. And I've used this time and time again when my friends have asked me for advice on places to go in different countries. I've actually then logged back into my Monzo travel reports to get the name of particular merchants and where they are to provide my friends with tips. The next example is relevant. So relevancy is a bit hard to define, but for me, it's just providing something to a customer that really just makes sense. And there's kind of this debate between, relevancy and personalization. What's the difference between the two? And I think it's important to note that relevancy doesn't necessarily have to be something that's personalized for the customer. So one of the best examples of relevancy comes within the e-commerce space. We see a lot of fashion e-commerce sites that are providing relevant experiences for clothing and shopping actually based on the weather. So here we have an example of Topshop. So they're able to see that we're browsing from London, and they tell us that the weather is looking rainy. And then they kind of caveat and promote the different shopping experiences based on the fact that we're in London. We may need an umbrella. If it's winter, we may need some scarves and a hat. So this is quite standard across the board within the fashion e-commerce space, and a really good idea about how to think about relevant customer experiences. Within banking, a really good example comes from Tandem. So Tandem, the challenger bank in the UK, partners with Personetics. Personetics is an Israeli smart AI and PFM vendor. And within the app, they provide customers with relevant pieces of information. So one of the features within Tandem is that they're using artificial intelligence to alert users to sudden rises in regular recurring bills. So electricity bills, mobile phone bills, Spotify, etc. So the Tandem app tracks the spending on regular monthly debits, and then it will let the customer know if there's a spike in spending. So you can see on the screenshot on the left, there's an alert informing the user that their EE bill is higher. So here we can see it is £9 more than usual. Then we can dig down into these alerts in the screenshot on the right. So this is informing us of an electricity bill. Again, it's telling us that it's £35 more than last month, and we have the option to reduce this. And this reduce this link, where relevant, will bring the user to a marketplace to suggest some cheaper alternatives to a customer's current provider. So again, not necessarily hyper-personalized, but again, telling the customer the right thing at the right time and providing an actionable opportunity for them to reduce their spending. Next up, we have personalized and personalization. So personalization, it's quite broad in terms of what you can do to create a good customer experience in the sense that it's personalized, but it is really core to this great customer experience and can have a major impact. And for me, it's deeper than aesthetics. So I remember when Atom Bank actually launched 4 or 5 years ago, and once you downloaded the Atom Bank app, one of the steps was to create the Bank of Megan. And when we first kind of looked at this, it was, oh, this is really exciting, elements of personalization. And essentially, you just chose between 4 different color palettes. So then you had, an Atom Bank app that was your preferred color, and it said, welcome to the bank of Megan. Not really that in-depth level of personalization that's leading to truly good customer experiences. So one example, going back to e-commerce fashion websites, this is an absolute fantastic example that uses machine learning and artificial intelligence to really help the user once shopping, in particular with the returns process. So this is ASOS, and they've put quite a lot of effort into making sure that customers are selecting the right sizes. It minimizes returns, it saves ASOS money, it's a win-win for both ASOS and the customer. So they prompt customers to review purchases, and they inform customers of when these purchases were made, the size they've selected, and it asks the users to unclick a purchase in which they had to make a return because the size was too small or too big or didn't fit right. And then that is then fueled into the ASOS engine, which recommends sizes at the point of purchase. An example within the financial service space, so this is an example from Capital One in the US with their virtual assistant called Eno. And Eno automatically sends useful insights and alerts about credit card accounts. So it monitors charges, tracks spending and fraud, and it creates virtual numbers when users shop online. So one example of an insight from Eno here, so it's a notification to the customer saying that they tipped a restaurant 50%. So kind of, hey, you had this 50% tip, is this correct, was it a mistake? And then it prompts the customer to either indicate that it's correct or no, help me fix this. And when you click on no, help me fix this, what it does is it actually refunds the money while Capital One looks into what's happened. So this is completely different to a lot of banks in which a customer has a fraudulent transaction and it's, a 7 to 14 day investigation, and that money is still, deducted from the account. So Capital One going one step beyond and really helping the customer in times of fraudulent transactions. Another notification they have comes from the SMS component of Eno. So it asks the customers if they just tried to purchase, a purchase that may be particularly high or coming from a market in which, if they're based outside of the US. So they send the notification. Please respond to protect your account. So here we say, no, we didn't make this purchase. And again, they're informing the user that they're going to take care of it right away. They lock the card, and that they will refund the customer that money. Another example from Eno is quite similar to what Tandem Bank is doing, and it is a increase in a charge. So you can see here, they're notifying the customer that a merchant charged them $15 this month, and that's $4 more than last month. So again, it's giving customers this information and allowing them to make an actionable decision whether this is correct or incorrect. Lastly, with Eno, they offer customers kind of, again, with this fraudulent alerts. So here we have a duplication of a transaction. So again, prompting the customers to say, yes, I made this both, no, help me fix this. Again, if it's fraudulent, immediately giving the customer those funds back while it's investigated. So next up, we have predictive, and this is the last component to a great customer experience. And where we're seeing a lot of great customer experiences that bring in this element of predictiveness is within payments. And it's really, really important to maintain that fine line between good and creepy. You don't want to be too predictive that you're scaring off your customers, but you want to be able to provide them with actionable, relevant, helpful insights. So a really great banking example comes from Tomorrow Bank, which is the digital offshoot from UAB in Singapore. So this is a bank targeted towards millennials in a number of Southeast Asian markets. So Tomorrow Bank is partnering with Maniga as well as Personetics to provide these relevant insights. So the screenshot on the left here is informing the customer that the balance in the account may not cover payments we think you're planning to make soon. So what they're doing is they're using the transaction data to predict if a payment's going to be made and helping cover the customer's payment costs so that they're able to make the payment and also that they don't incur any fees. And the screenshot on the right, one of the core components of this app are these really clever kind of predictive and experiential cards. So the card in the middle says time to pay mummy, and it says, we've noticed that you usually pay your mother around this time of the month. Would you like to continue to make this payment this month? So again, just really helping the customer keep on top of their finances, nothing, too creepy, just finding that perfect balance. And the last example comes from Bank of America and their personal assistant, Erica. So Erica, like Eno, helps customers keep on track of their spending. And the first screenshot on the right, so they're showing that their spending is higher than previous months, but then also showing them what that particular implication will be for their specific account. The screenshot on the middle is they're informing customers that they have more money than usual at the end of the month, so suggesting that they actually put that extra money towards paying off their credit card. And the screenshot on the right, so this is a notification helping them keep track of their mortgage payments, and it's linking how they should make the mortgage payment tied to their salary. Okay. So as I'm out of time, I'll wrap up with 3 tips for success. So, whether you are a startup, a fintech, a large corporate, a large bank, there's 3 really easy things I think that should be at the heart and soul of how you address customer experience. So the first is experiment. So that first example I showed you with Monzo and their travel reports, that was a complete experiment, not on their product map. So what happened was that Tom, the CEO, actually went to Berlin for the weekend, and the tech and product guys said, hey, let's try out this new feature. Let's see what we can do with notifications and utilizing the GPS. So they kind of sent this notification to Tom. He had no idea what was going on, but absolutely loved it. And they said, let's roll with this. And it's one of the top features of Monzo today. So don't be afraid to try out new features with a limited customer group. Involve customers in test flight if necessary. And years ago, some of the leading banks such as ING, Societe Generale, and Barclays have launched standalone apps for experimenting new products and services to kind of test that idea with customers, and also encouraging customers to try to break things, and providing as much feedback as possible. The second is speak with your customers. Before you consider launching a new product or feature, you really have to speak with your customers. Whether this be focus groups, depth interviews, you really need to uncover where the customer pain points are. And that will uncover what you need to implement to achieve that killer customer experience. And one great framework to use is the Jobs to be Done framework. So it identifies innovation based on the day-to-day jobs of customers. I'm a huge advocate for the Jobs to be Done framework for banks, fintechs, all types of companies. And lastly, test early and test often. This is really pivotal in creating that killer customer experience, but also maintaining cost efficiency within your organization. So every dollar spent on user experience brings in between $2 and $100 in return. And the cost of user experience change in the development phase is 100 times more than a change at the design stage, and 200 times more expensive when the product is live. So these are my 3 tips for success, and sort of what I think about as the ingredients to a killer customer experience. So when I think about new products and services, it's absolutely pivotal that they contain one of these different components, ideally all 4. There's plenty of inspiration out there, and I thank you all very much.